What's going on, guys? I'm Dave, and in this video we're going to talk about the Dr. Seuss Experience, which recently opened up in the Denver area. If you have small kids, chances are you've heard about this, but it is not cheap. Just for reference, for me to go with my wife and our almost 2-year-old, it was almost $120, so I wanted to make this video to show you around so that you would know what to expect, because it really wasn't the experience that I thought that we were getting into. We're kind of in a time right now where these more immersive experiences, like the immersive Van Gogh experience and the immersive Frida Kahlo, are like really cool. They take over all your senses. They're in really big spaces with music and art. I understand that that's more for an adult audience, but I think we've been a little bit spoiled by that, and this is absolutely not that. I do think that the Dr. Seuss experience can work if maybe your kids are right in that sweet spot of maybe 3 to 4 years old, but if your kids are either really young or a little older than that, it might not be the right thing for them. But let's get into this video. I'll show you around to the different rooms and let you know how it differed from my expectations. First, the Dr. Seuss experience is in Centennial next to the big IKEA. You probably know where that is. And it's just kind of in a random former retail space, kind of like a Spirit Halloween would take over a space that a store used to be in. It's in one of those. It's not in like a really cool event center or anything like that. And right when you step inside, you'll realize that the rooms that represent different Dr. Seuss books aren't actually that big. They're probably the size of your rich friend's master bedroom with maybe their bathroom. Right from the jump, I was just expecting something bigger, a larger warehouse, more branding. This was just very obviously formerly a retail space with just like generic carpeting on the ground, and it feels a little bit more like a pop-up. There are temporary walls that separate the rooms, and it doesn't feel like a premium experience when you're spending over $100 for just 3 people in your family to go. And that's not to say that there's nothing in the Dr. Seuss experience that is cool. You walk in through a little balloon maze, which I think, for kids 3 to 4 years old is pretty cool, even though the balloons are hard. I mean, they have to, otherwise the balloons would pop. And the rooms themselves do have a lot of character based on the books, but once you get inside the rooms, there's largely just, cartoon-like furniture, some reminiscent things from the books, and some large stuffed animals that are from the books, but there's really not a lot about it that feels really special. There's not cool music. There's only generally one character walking around at a time, so if the Cat in the Hat is out, that means the Lorax is not out. And you don't really get a really immersive feeling experience. It feels like you just walk into a room, see some stuff that's not really moving, move on to the next room. It's not that exciting. It kind of feels like you're walking around a children's museum, but a children's museum where the kids aren't supposed to touch everything. There were a few areas that, were do not enter, do not touch, or look only type of things. And that was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought that this would be obviously very different from like an immersive art experience, but I thought that the kids would be able to fully explore things, and also that there would be a little bit more interaction, a little bit more magic when they went into these rooms. And the rooms just were kind of there, they look cool in theory, but at the end of the day, you're just walking around a room that has, furniture set up and maybe, some cool trees and some swings. But beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot of magic outside of some fans. But if your kids are huge fans of the Dr. Seuss books, they definitely will get more of a kick out of this. If your kids are not big Dr. Seuss book fans, or maybe, they're under 3 years old, our son is almost 2, so while we do read the books to him all the time, he doesn't really have this really intense love for the characters. But for kids that do love Cat in the Hat, there is a really cool thing in that room where there's kind of an animatronic Cat in the Hat, and he listens to what you say and actually responds very intelligently. It's probably just a person on a microphone who's hearing what people are saying. But he responds to the kids as they're asking the cat questions, and that's pretty neat. Again, if your kids are in that really targeted age that this Dr. Seuss experience is going to be perfect for, they'll probably have a lot of fun just running around and seeing things that are a little different. At the same time, the rooms are small, so you might not spend as much time here as you would have expected. For $120, I thought that we were going to be there for about 2 hours. We lasted about 45 minutes. We stretched it to an hour, and I don't really think we could have stayed any longer. Outside of the rooms themselves, which really have limited spaces to explore, this is not like a Meow Wolf where you'll be going through a maze and your kids will just be discovering thing after thing. It's kind of like when you walk in, what you see is what you get. Outside of that, you can meet the characters and take a picture with them, but again, only one is out at a time, or one was out at a time, and that was pretty disappointing. I thought that, we would maybe have Thing 1 and Thing 2 walking around with Cat in the Hat also walking around. It was just one at a time taking a picture with the kids, and there was a very, very slow carousel that kids could ride as well. And the Snitches room, there actually wasn't really anything you could do. You could just stand in a very contained area and you couldn't interact with them at all. You weren't allowed to touch them. It was definitely like a look, don't touch type of thing. And that really wasn't what I expected in something known as an experience. And I think that that was my biggest disappointment with the whole thing. It just didn't really feel like an experience. I think the fact that it was a pop-up in what was formerly a retail location really took away from it feeling like it had a lot of character. In the area where you would sit down, if your kids want to have a snack or something like that, even that, those chairs were just the plastic IKEA chairs that pretty much everybody has, with some, sad looking tablecloths on the top that had Dr. Seuss characters on them. That's not super magical. There weren't really cool chairs or fun tables. Like, these are just like plastic tables and I get it. I get that it's a pop-up, but I just expected a little bit more out of something that was so expensive and out of something that, is a brand that people really, really love. Even the Grinch area, which is, obviously one of the biggest characters in the Dr. Seuss universe, you're fishing for Christmas presents with fishing poles, but, there really wasn't anybody working the station. Like, they were there cleaning off the fishing poles and kind of supervising to make sure that kids weren't breaking anything, but they weren't making it a really fun experience or getting families involved. It was basically just like a bunch of kids running around on their own, and there just wasn't that effort there to make this feel like something that was really special and different. And really, it wasn't a total loss. You can see in the video that there are a lot of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who are running around. They're having a great time. They're excited to meet the characters. There are some good things going on there. But this is just crazy expensive. You could go to the Children's Museum multiple times. You could go to the Museum of Nature and Science multiple times in the amount of money that it costed to go to the Dr. Seuss experience, which was just so small. You go through one time and you make yourself go through a second time because you paid for it, but then there wasn't really anything new to discover, and that was a really, really big letdown. So if you do have tickets to the Dr. Seuss experience, either in Denver or another city, I don't want you to, sell your tickets. It's not totally worthless, but I do want you to set your expectations, because this is not a 2 to 3 hour super fun event. It's not necessarily something where your kids will be running around and exploring, where you'll be able to sit in the corner on your phone and relax. Or it won't be a place where your kids are seeing new things all the time and they're saying hey mom, hey dad, look at this. It's not that kind of place. It's very crowded, and the kids will only be able to see so much at a time, and there's just not a whole lot of magic. I don't think that means that it's a terrible thing. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst at the same time. It definitely would have been made more magical with just more ambiance, more branded things. It could have felt a little bit more magical from room to room. There could have been more music or dialogue or more surprises as you're going from place to place. And that's really what it was missing. It just felt like I was walking around in a giant diorama, and that's okay, but that's not necessarily how you want to spend over $100 or more if you have multiple kids. All that being said, it's not like I regret going. It just didn't meet all of my expectations, and I think that if you go into it not expecting a fully immersive, super branded experience, and you're just like, okay, cool, this is a place where I'm gonna spend an hour. It was a very expensive hour of my life, but that's really what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna walk into a pop-up that's probably a Spirit Halloween in parts of the year, and we're just gonna make it work, and it will be okay. Your kids won't have the best time of their lives, but they will probably be more entertained than you will be. So as much as I wanted to give this the best review in the whole world, it was just okay. I hope that this video helped you get a feel for what to expect when you go to the Dr. Seuss Experience. And maybe if you haven't got tickets yet, you can decide if this is for you. If your kids really, really love these characters, they're gonna have a blast in these rooms that represent these worlds that they know in the books. If your kids are just okay on it, I don't think that this is necessarily going to make them love the books, and it's not going to be the greatest morning of their lives. But thanks so much for checking out this video, and I hope that it helped you understand what to expect in the Dr. Seuss Experience.